Hi guys, my name is Ariana and welcome to my channel. I am going to review a story that has been on a lot of people's recommendation lists. I think it was one of the most anticipated books of 2020 and it just came out on the 4th. When I started my booktube channel, one of my fam went ahead and bought me the book off of my wish list. Shout out to KJ. He's amazing. Love you guys. Love all of you guys because y'all have been literally supporting my book habit. Even when I haven't really said anything about it, but thank you guys. Love you guys. Y'all are amazing. Anyways, but this book has been recommended to me by a lot of booktubers, and when Jesse from Bow Ties in Books actually added it um to their NB Book Club um choices for August, I wanted to go ahead and read it with them. So when it got here, I started it immediately. First, let's talk about the reincarnation story. Vivek is actually reincarnated from his grandmother, and when his parents, Kavita and Chika, discovered that he had the same scar on the instep of his foot like his grandmother, they knew that his grandmother was no longer with them. And someone, Shirley, came to the hospital and told them that his mother had passed away in her sleep. With that said, they refused to give him a reincarnation name because he was a boy and his grandmother was a woman. He never did get his reincarnation name. So he became Vivek Oji. Um, so in this book, you see that he is having issues with his identity and issues with his family, his parents, his cousin. He begins having these blackouts that cause him to lose sense of time and the things going on around him. These are evidences of his identity crisis, I guess, manifesting themselves physically and eventually going through school. He was dealing with bullying and a lot of violence that was perpetrated towards him and everything like that. Like, people just did not treat Vivek that well. And eventually his cousin did find out about some of these things that he was dealing with. His father sent him to military school because he thought he was too soft and wanted to toughen him up. And while he was away at military school, these things began to happen to him. And even some of the kids that lived in his childhood neighborhood didn't treat him that well. Let's just say Tobachuku only helped him because he wanted to figure out if Vivek was gay, basically. So these kids were literally just mean to him all around. Now, the Niger Wives, it was an organization that Kavita was a part of, and they became like a built-in family for him. They became a safe space for the children, and eventually the children grew up, became friends, and they became safe spaces for Vivek. And he began to hide his secret from his parents, and his friends rallied around him. It became a safe space for him to become Nimdi, which was supposed to be the name, the reincarnation name that he got as a baby. And as you go through the story, you find out that they were trying to protect him, that his parents had no idea about it. His cousin was kind of disgusted by it at first until he came to terms with his own identity. His aunt and uncle didn't know anything about it, and eventually they began to think he was possessed, and they tried to get him delivered and took him to church, and a whole bunch of other violence went on there. Um, once Osita became once Osita became more aware of himself and began to uh, accept his sexuality and accept himself, he fell in love with Vivek and saw Vivek beginning to transform into Nemdi, and Nemdi eventually becomes this um, strong and brave woman with all the courage in the world. She wanted to do what she wanted, go where she wanted to go, and be who she was. And didn't want anyone to question her about it, and it eventually led to her being killed. Um, not gonna give anything else away. Uh, except I do have to say that um, Nimdi's death is an accident. I'm not going to tell you who or what or where or why, but let's just leave it at that. It was an accident. Um, in the end, after Nimdi dies and um, his parents begin to understand that he was in fact reincarnated from his grandmother, and they start to begin to understand what may have happened to him. They also begin to accept what was going on with him, what happened to him, and getting that closure. And also, Kavita begins to try to understand what was happening with Nemdi, and begins to accept Vivek becoming Nemdi as a person, knowing that Vivek and Nemdi are one and the same person, except Nemdi is the true embodiment of who she was. Vivek was just the assigned gender that they were given as a child. So it's a beautiful story of acceptance, found family. It even has some socio-political things that were going on. Like in the process, you see uh, their last military leader in Nigeria, being killed, and the riots and things happening around them. But they're still in this bubble that was built around them by their parents, you know. So all of the outside things that were happening, they didn't know about unless they actually went out into the world. And um, Vivek actually does experience one of the riots and almost ends up in direct um, indirect confrontation with the people who are rioting. So, and he goes into one of his fugue states, and one of his neighbors, notices him standing there and saves him, basically. So that was the only time he actually um, experienced that going on, you know? So going back, saying he was in a bubble and his friends gave him a safe space to become Nemdi, and Nemdi, she did not take no for an answer. She did what she wanted to. She went out. She wanted to go get her puff puff, her snacks, go to the market and things like that in her dress with all of her hair snatched and, just makeup done, everything. Just Nemdi wanted to be herself. And I applaud the hell out of her for that. Because in Nigeria, amidst political unrest and a whole bunch of other stuff that's happening, you're in the middle of a patriarchal society and you want to be yourself. So the bravery that Nimdi had, I mean, to want to be yourself in a patriarchal society in the middle of riots that could spell certain death. Go ahead and do you, okay? Be yourself in the face of all dangers. So it's a beautiful story of courage and just love and just everything in the face of just everything falling apart around you, and finding a safe space and um, a found family that accepts you for you. And though Nimdi does die, I think Nimdi left a lasting impression on everyone she came across. And I'm gonna say this right now. She should have always had her reincarnation name. Her uncle said it, her aunt said it, her dad just didn't want to hear it. She should have always had that name. They should have acknowledged the reincarnation and went along accordingly instead of trying to deny it and not talking about it. That's it. And Osita loved his cousin. Nimdi, Vivek, Osita didn't care. So either way, he was going to be in it. Either way, it was going to be him and Nimdi against the world. And at least Nimdi had people who loved her, which was, and the amazing part is that in a world where they teach their children not to be a certain way, not to think a certain way, not to like certain things, in a world where a lot of those things would not be accepted, They were all each other's safe space. And not to mention, some of the girls were queer too. So that safe space was not just for not Nimdi, it was for all of them. So I want to give this book like 500 stars. It's a beautiful story of, and it's just a story of protection and being there for each other and having a place to be who you are. So because I do relate to this story a lot, it hit home for me. I see a lot of my family in Nimdi's family or Vivek's family, whichever one. I'm going to refer to her as Nimdi because that's who she was authentically, you know? So it's called The Death of Vivek Oji, but it should be called The Death of Nimdi Oji because that was her true authentic self. Akwaeke Emezi, you did this. Oh, funny story. I did um live tweet my rating of this book, and Akwaeke Emezi got a hold of the thread and read through it and was retweeting certain ones, and they actually responded, and I squealed. I was just so surprised. It was the middle of the night and I was about to get ready to go to bed. I just so happened to check my phone and a message from Akwaeke Emezi pops up on my Twitter. I just want to say, if she actually does see this, hi, you are amazing and I loved this story. Well, I already told you that, but if you see this, thank you for this story. It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions, and I loved it. You did this. Like, I've never read a story like this before, and it's just amazing. Great. Just 500 stars. There you go. I loved it. With that said, peace out. Y'all have a great week. I don't know if I'm going to be doing anything else during this week, but I guess you'll know if I actually do upload anything else. But peace out. Have a good day, evening, night, whatever it is in your time zone. Have a good one, you know. Peace out. Bye.